Hi, everyone, and welcome to this edition of News In-Depth. I'm Tom Slivick, and with me is Pat Crew. How you doing, Pat?
Good,
to
Tom.
see you again.
Thanks for having me.
Good. And, we're going to have two segments, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to try to keep the first segment on Jackson's business last night at the City Council, and then we'll be talking with Pat about business in general in Jackson area and JBCA and things like that, right? Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay, well, I think you handle the gavel down there, don't you?
I do.
Okay,
Three-hour meeting, just shy of 3 hours last night. So
it's a long meeting then, huh?
It was a long meeting, a lot of content.
Okay, why don't you start off on some of what happened, or what was the big item? Why don't we keep people's interest while we have them?
Okay, the biggest item was, two actually. One was the public comment on the adequacy of the draft environmental report for the sewer plant and the preferred alternatives.
Okay.
There was no vote or anything. It was strictly informational, but there were quite a few that had some real concerns and differing opinions. And now there'll be a written comment period that comes after September 7th.
Okay. Can you give us, why don't you give the viewers an idea of what is the concepts for the sewer plant?
Well, there's 3 or 4. One is to not do anything, I think, but they decided that was not even studied.
Probably, right.
Then there's the Berry Reservoir concept. What it has to do is we have to solve a 21-to-1 dilution in Lake Amador, where the creek goes into Lake Amador, 5% dilution. Rainy season, great winters, we have very little problem. Summers like this, or when the winters aren't as wet, we have some real problems. So how do you mitigate that? And then there's this goes back clear to the 80s to put a spray field.
Okay, right.
And that's probably of the preferred alternative, and I only say probably because it's still in the works.
Okay.
But
where would the spray field be? Do you have an idea already?
Yeah.
Is that on the back? Is that on the Boozy property?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, part. I didn't realize, I don't know if they have this much and they were going to acquire. We just listened last night. Someone said it could go up to 300 acres. And then that's got some attendant environmental issues of itself because it's on a hillside. So the draft EIR looked like the LA phone book.
Okay.
Yeah, so very complicated subject. People who came up had some very good
It's very costly
questions.
to come up with a phone book full of words, isn't it?
Yeah, right, it is. And the fellow made a presentation from PMC, I think.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
I believe that's it.
Yeah.
Your consultants, right?
Yeah, very concise. And that was the one. And then the other, which was very contentious at times, was the proposed rate increase for the city of Jackson.
Right.
By the Water Agency. This started back in March, to give everyone a little historical perspective.
That's what you're here for.
They met with the Outreach Committee, which I sit on with Keith Sweet, and told us there would be an increase coming. They were studying, they were looking to do the consolidated, the CFDs, and they want to get a uniform rate plan, at least in the Amador water system.
Right.
So
the rates wouldn't necessarily be the same because there's different levels of service or different
debt service
loans
and,
on the different
delivery costs.
systems.
Correct. So then we didn't hear from them, and in July 26th, I thought they had a board meeting, and they decided they were going to send out a notice. Well, that fee was up quite a bit from what they'd originally even told us, so we had an outreach meeting with them again.
Okay.
And they finally, the latest proposal, and they were there last night, and it would be about almost 10% increase in the water rates for us, which it's only from 3 cents in the cost of the water per CFM, but the most is in the debt service. And when they broke that out, it's $19,000 and some change per year to the citizens of Jackson to help pay for the Amador transmission line, which goes to Plymouth. And in the 2000 negotiating,
Okay.
they had it in, Mike Daly has it in that there was in the record that the city of Jackson would never have to help pay for the Amador transmission line. Since that, 5 years have gone by, they looked and they've come up with that Plymouth actually was paying too much because they expected more water use or whatever, and we've conserved water, so the revenue has gone down.
Right.
So there's a bunch of mitigating factors, but the basis is that Plymouth's water rate in the new, if it's adopted, would go down, not very much, but go down, and ours would go up 4% to help pay, and part of that would be pay for the transmission line in Plymouth. I don't see where we get any benefit from that. I've publicly stated that. We're writing a letter to Gene Mancebo was there and explaining their position, and we are going to send a letter to the board that we realize that costs happen, we were talking about.
Sure. Yeah.
But please reconsider making the citizens of Jackson help pay for the Plymouth pipeline, is basically what and if we didn't have that, we'd only have a 3% cost increase. And as you were saying, garbage goes up, water goes up, sewers coming along, food, gasoline.
Kind of the matter is costs have been going up, and of course
things you can't control.
With the terrible economy,
Yeah.
it's not necessarily a choice of people of whether they even have the money to pay to make these all of these different rate increases, whether it's for food, all of that, and it's very tough on people. So I'm sure that you're hearing from your constituents.
Yeah. Well,
right?
Yeah. And there was, I just have a hard time wrapping around that Plymouth pays less and we pay more in the new configuration.
Well, did you get any reason for why that was?
Well,
what is it that
because
they said? Me not being there.
The fractions were, and I think this is right, that originally 65% of the Plymouth the Amador transmission line was to be borne by the city of Plymouth, and 35% by the water agency. Well, now the water agency, it looks to me, and I'm not privy to them, I'm just looking at a sheet of paper, want to spread that 35% debt over all of their customers. And we're a unique customer is because we buy treated water from them, but we do our own distribution, our own billing. We're kind of out there by ourselves. And the 218 process, the entire city of Jackson gets one vote because we're one customer.
Oh, wow.
Puts us in a very tough spot.
Kind of makes sense, but I certainly didn't, from one standpoint, kind of, makes some sense since you are just one customer. And so you only get one vote in there, but, you actually are representing quite a lot of customers for yourself. And the billing costs and the transmission is you're bearing that rather than it going through the water agency. Is that
correct?
Is that the
correct?
Basically
we do
the way
our
that
own maintenance.
Jackson is seeing it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Is that for most of the members on the council?
Yes.
More or less unanimous.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that'll be a tough road to haul then for I believe the water agency.
Yeah.
I would think.
Well, like I said, it's only an advisory because it's up to them. It's their business, but we're just asking them to please take another look at that.
Okay. And what else was on the agenda?
We had our assessor, Jim Rooney,
talking
about more happy times. It was kind of a gloomy meeting that the assessed values in the city of Jackson were down over 2% again this year. And in our general fund, Mike Daly had figured a 1% drop, so we've got a little more adjusting to do there.
Okay.
But Jim Rooney says he never is very good at predicting, but there is more activity now, and he thinks the foreclosure short sales, which have clouded the valuations, are not influence in the market as much today as they were even a year ago.
So was Rooney basically saying he thinks maybe you're at the bottom, we're at the bottom?
Well, that's what he didn't say that, but I kind of
I hear
read
that.
between the lines.
I kind of hear that.
Yeah, he
not
prefaced
Rooney
that
either.
by saying he was not a very good.
Well, that would be a good thing. At least we know where the
prognosticator.
bottom would be, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay, then we just have to wait for it to come up.
Mhm.
Okay. At the same time, I had talked, and we only have a minute, but for this segment, to Mike Daly, and he was saying that tax revenues, though, were basically somewhat up for City of Jackson. So
Yep.
that sounds like there's some
Tougher
business
to find a
activity
parking
coming back,
spot.
right?
It's tougher to find a parking spot on Main Street.
Okay, I've got my own in the back
Oh,
of Main Street, up
yeah.
by California Street here.
But sales tax revenue was up like 60,000 in the last year,
Okay.
and
Is there any specific stores or anything that you attribute to that, or is it generally up? I had said it seems like
Generally
the
up.
cities might be one of the best indicators to look at to see for the economies because of the the sales tax, and you guys keeping a close eye on that.
well, there were some new ones
30
came
seconds,
in.
answer it, and then we'll take our break.
new
Go
ones
ahead.
came in, and I think the facade improvement program at the main event and at Keith DeVoy's place and at Rosebud's made the more inviting. And of course the National, big bub about the National coming online. So I think the city, like I said in one of those meetings, if you listen really quiet,
Oh,
the
yeah.
old girl's got a heartbeat.
Okay, all right. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with Pat after this. Stay with us, right? You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.